We've been in this series for the past, I guess this is week number 3, a series called Faithful and Fruitful. Faithfulness results in fruitfulness. So let's just briefly review a little bit here. We're not going to spend a lot of time. You can actually go back and you can find all the messages online on our website, our YouTube channel, our Facebook page. You can review if you want. Let me just briefly recap. We're talking about faithfulness in being the people that God's called us to be, and faithfulness in doing what He's called us to do. And that should lead to fruitfulness. Yes, individual, we're hoping individual fruit and individual growth, and we're hoping that, corporate and church-wide growth, but more importantly about kingdom growth. That's what we're about, God's kingdom growth. And so in this series, we're focusing on our mission here at Living Grace. And if you've been around, you know this by heart, hopefully. We're about following Jesus together. This is a together thing. And we define following Jesus as becoming, belonging, and blessing. Becoming more like Jesus, belonging to His family, and then sharing His blessing, His good news of blessing to the world. And so week number 1 of the series, we talked about the becoming. And we often say it like this: becoming like the Word through the Word. Well, who's the Word? The Word is Jesus. The Word is God made flesh, Emmanuel. And this is the story of Jesus. It all leads to Jesus. It points to Jesus. And so when we are becoming more like Him, and we're diving into the Word, and we're studying the Word as we read the Word, a faithful way to approach the Word will lead us to worship. It will lead us to greater awe and wonder of our Creator. And it should lead us to transformation, because it's becoming like Jesus, being transformed into His image, the image that we are created to bear. And it should lead to participation in what He's up to in our world, which we're actually going to talk more about today. Last week, we moved along. We talked about the belonging part of our mission. And we talked about how love and unity is so crucial in the body of Christ, in this family. Love and unity is so crucial because it's a reflection of our triune Creator. It's a reflection of our 3-in-1 Creator. And it's the kind of community that everyone is longing for, because it's the kind of community that everyone was created for. So today, we're going to conclude the series by looking at the blessing. What's this blessing all about that we're supposed to share with the world, with our neighbors, with our community? Blessing is kind of a very religious sounding word, right? I mean, we say bless you or God bless you after someone sneezes. Why in the world do we do that? That seems kind of strange. Or we say bless your heart, or we say a blessing before a meal. We say things like, I'm so blessed, or I feel so blessed. There's a lot of different ways that we use this word, but what does it actually mean? What is this blessing that we're talking about? What's this blessing we're supposed to receive and share as followers of Jesus? This blessing that we're sharing to the world. That's what we're going to look at today. It's a very powerful word. In fact, forms of the word bless, blessing, blessed, bless, the forms of that word is found over 400 times in the Bible. In fact, it's one of the major themes that runs throughout the scriptures, from the very beginning pages to the very ending of the story. And so we get a great picture of what the blessing is all about in the very beginning of the Bible. So that's where we're going to start. Obviously, we talk about this a lot. Human beings were created in the image of God, created to represent Him in the world, to rule on His behalf, to partner with Him, to reflect Him in the world. Such a big deal. Created in His image. And after that, God blessed them and said to them, be fruitful and increase in number, fill the earth and subdue it. Rule over the fish of the sea and the birds in the sky, and over every living creature that moves along the ground. So be fruitful and increase in number, or maybe your translation says, and multiply. Be fruitful and multiply. Fill the earth and subdue it. Or it's another way of saying rule. Rule as my image bearers, as my representatives over the earth. So his blessing was that they be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth and rule on God's behalf. That's a picture of what his blessing was all about. Be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth, and rule on God's behalf. See, they received life from their Creator, a flourishing life, a God kind of life, a life that can only come through a relationship with their Creator, his presence, his goodness in their life. I mean, this is what true life is all about. Walking with the Creator, walking in relationship with the Creator. And now they are to be life givers. This God kind of life is a life that reproduces. It reproduces. It grows. It spreads. It's a multiplication of life-giving image bearers who fill the earth and reflect God's glory. Be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth. Lots of image bearers reflecting God's glory in the world. God's blessing to them came with incredible responsibility that they partner with their life-giving Creator in the life-giving process, spreading his blessing throughout the earth. It's really a beautiful picture if you study it and think about it. Just a beautiful picture of what God intended. Instead of giving, they decided to take. And instead of ruling on God's behalf, they make it about themselves, right? They want to rule themselves, and they want to rule on their own terms. Instead of trusting in their Creator, they decide to trust in themselves. I mean, how foolish, right? Now that leads where? That leads to a curse instead of a blessing. The curse is spread throughout humanity and throughout the world. It leads to death instead of life, and now they're separated from the giver of life. And here in the story, in the very beginning, we're left hanging. It's kind of like when you're watching a show on TV and it gets to the end and it says to be continued. Now back in the day, you had to wait a week later. Nowadays, you can kind of binge watch a show and you can just go right to the next episode. But this is where we're at in the story. We're kind of left hanging. How is God going to restore the blessing? How is he going to make things right? How is he going to reverse the curse, bringing the blessing back to humanity? How is he going to do it? Well, through a particular man, a particular woman, and their family. And so we turn to Genesis chapter 12. The Lord had said to Abram, "Go from your country, your people and your father's household to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing." I'm going to make your name great, and you're going to be a blessing. My blessing for you, Abraham, Sarah, is that you're going to be fruitful, and you're going to multiply. You're going to produce life. Your family is going to grow. It's going to be huge. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse. In other words, to be a part of this family is to be included in the blessing, a blessing that brings life. To not be in this family is to continue in the way of the curse, to continue in the way of death, the way that leads to death, separated from the giver of life. And all peoples on earth will be blessed because of you. This blessing is going to spread. This blessing is going to multiply. This blessing is going to fill the earth. It's going to be as numerous as the stars in the sky and the sands of the sea, God told Abraham. It's going to be fruitful. It's going to multiply. It's going to fill the earth. And of course, we know that they weren't faithful in that calling. Israel was not faithful in their calling. But then Jesus, the seed of Abraham, the bringer of the blessing, the one who is going to restore the blessing, he arrives on the scene. And in the Gospel of John, we read this: in him was life. In him was life, true life. And that life was the light of all mankind. And Jesus said, "The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. This is the way of death. This is the way of the curse. But I have come that they may have life and have it to the full, or have abundant life, fruitful life, the life that God always intended, a God kind of life, a kind of life that only comes from God, what we were created for. And then Jesus says things like this about this kingdom kind of life. He told them another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed which a man took and planted in his field. Though it is the smallest of all seeds, yet when it grows, it is the largest of garden plants and becomes a tree, so that the birds come and perch in its branches. He goes on to say, the kingdom of heaven is like yeast that a woman took and mixed into about 60 pounds of flour until it worked all throughout the dough. This kind of kingdom life that he came to establish, it's going to grow. It's going to grow. It's going to reproduce. It's going to multiply like crazy. But then he gives up his life. Jesus lays down his life on a cross. The Apostle Paul wrote, Christ redeemed us from the curse of the law by becoming a curse for us. For it is written, cursed is the one who is hung on a pole or is hung on a tree. And this is exactly what Jesus did. Through his sacrificial death, he takes the curse upon himself in order to reverse the curse. He said, very truly I tell you, unless a kernel of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains only one seed. But if it dies, it produces many seeds. Many seeds. It turns out that this seed's death produces life. Life for all mankind. Because we know what happens next. 3 days later, he was raised to life. And the Apostle Paul describes his resurrection as what? First fruits. First fruits. But Christ has indeed been raised from the dead, the first fruits of those who've fallen asleep. For since death came through a man, Adam, the resurrection of the dead comes also through a man, Jesus himself. His resurrection, Jesus' resurrection, was the beginning of new creation life. Life. There's a bountiful, fruitful harvest to come. It's a bountiful, fruitful harvest that's going to multiply and it's going to fill the earth. And before Jesus ascends into heaven, he says, therefore, go and make disciples of all nations. All nations. And he says, but you will receive power when the Holy Spirit comes on you, and you will be my witnesses in Jerusalem, in all of Samaria, and in all Judea and Samaria, and to the ends of the earth. All nations to the ends of the earth. See, this message, this story, this blessing wasn't to end with them, right? It was meant to grow. It was meant to be fruitful, to multiply and fill the earth. It was meant to spread to the nations, to the very ends of the earth. You see the connection here? And one day, we're told that this blessing is going to be completely restored to humanity and completely restored to God's creation. That's the ultimate reality where we're heading. In Revelation, we read, then the angel showed me the river of the water of life, as clear as crystal, flowing from the throne of God and of the Lamb down the middle of the great street of the city. On each side of the river stood the tree of life. The tree of life, just like in the Garden of Eden, bearing 12 crops of fruit, yielding its fruit every month. And the leaves of the tree are for the healing of the nations. A picture of what God intended from the very beginning. This huge family that would fill the earth, all the nations. No longer will there be any curse. The throne of God and the Lamb will be in the city, and his servants will serve him. They will see his face, and his name will be on their foreheads. There will be no more night. They will not need the light of a lamp or the light of the sun, for the Lord God will give them light, and they will reign forever and ever. They're going to reign and rule and partner with their Creator as image bearers, filling the earth. Just like God intended. Just like God intended from the very beginning. This is just, we can't wait for this, right? But in the meantime, what does this mean for us? What does this mean for Living Grace? You know, this blessing that we see throughout the scriptures that's multiplying and growing and spreading. We're supposed to share. What does this mean? 3 things. This blessing we're supposed to share is it's inviting people to a growing life. A growing life. We're not just inviting people to make a decision, you know, to pray a prayer, to get saved, to invite Jesus into their heart so they can go to heaven someday. That's part of it. That's part of it, but it's so much bigger than that. Everyone has to decide for themselves whether they're going to follow Jesus. But listen, for many, that's where it ends. It's just a decision that they made, you know, at camp or you know, one, you know, day in the past where they made some kind of decision. And see, we're inviting people into the life they were created for. It's a God kind of life. It's life to the full. It's abundant life. It's a blessed life of God's presence in their lives, of God's goodness in their lives. And it happens by trusting in him, trusting in him. It's like Adam and Eve. They had to trust their Creator, or they had to trust themselves. We're inviting people into this kind of life they were created for by trusting in Jesus and then following him for a lifetime. That's key. It's following Jesus for a lifetime. Over a lifetime, following Jesus brings healing and wholeness spiritually, but also mentally and physically and relationally, and growing to maturity, becoming more and more and more like Jesus, becoming more and more like the person that God created them to be. That's what we're inviting people to. We're not just inviting people to make a one-time decision. We're inviting them into a life of discipleship. Discipleship, a life of following Jesus. A blessed life is a life that grows. It's a fruitful life, like a seed. We're also inviting people into a reproducing family. We're a fruitful people. We're a people that reproduce. Therefore, we're a family, right? A family called the church. And so, as we're building relationships with people, as we're sharing this blessing with people, we're not just rattling off the Romans road or the 4 spiritual laws or other formal invitations, formal presentations. You know, those can be helpful. Those can be helpful, but it's not transactional. It's relational. It's relational because our God is relational. We want to give people a picture of who our God is. And it's relational because we're part of a family that's relational. We're in this together. A family of life producers. It's growing and it's spreading. And we're spurring one another on toward love and good deeds, and we're unified. This is what true belonging looks like, belonging to a family. We want more and more people to join this big, loving, unified family. We're inviting people to follow with us. Come follow Jesus with us. We're in this together. And we're inviting people into a multiplying movement. This is huge. This is huge. If we could just get our minds around this could change a whole lot. This life is bigger than me. This life is bigger than you. I mean, this isn't even about Living Grace. It's not just about living grace. I mean, we're inviting people to be a part of something huge and timeless. We're inviting people into the story of God. We're inviting people to be a part of what he's been up to in the world from the beginning, fixing this broken world, rescuing his people and all of creation, setting things straight, making things right, restoring the blessing, reversing the curse. That's what we're inviting people to be a part of. It's huge. We're inviting people into a story that's way bigger than self. It's the story of fruitful blessing that's been growing, and it's been spreading throughout the ages, and it's been multiplying over and over and over and over again, from Adam and Eve to Abraham and Sarah to the people of Israel to Jesus and his followers to the early church to the nations and beyond, filling the earth. And here we are today. Here we are today. The blessing doesn't end with us. It moves beyond us, filling the earth, filling our neighborhoods, filling our schools, filling our workplaces as we participate in it. How do we do that? By following Jesus' example. He's Emmanuel, he's God with us. And so we participate in this blessing by getting beyond ourselves, by getting outside these walls, by investing in relationships with people, getting to know our neighbors, loving, serving, giving of ourselves, just like Jesus. And even in the small, like mundane things of life, these things are all part of God's big story. This job I have, this job you have, it's way bigger than me. It's way bigger than you. This relationship that I'm in, it's way bigger than me. This neighborhood that I live in, it's bigger than me. This church that I attend, it's bigger than me. This conversation that I'm having with someone, it's way bigger than me, because I have the opportunity to participate in God's big agenda in our world. I found this picture the other day. This is from Pete Scazzaro. He's the author of a book that I read, The Emotionally Healthy Discipleship. And this is just a great picture of what following Jesus together looks like at Living Grace. It was so good to see a picture of what this looks like. You know, so often we want to try to get a lot of people to attend our church. And a lot of people do attend church and sit in the chairs and then, very few actually connect and serve, and very few actually spread the blessing to the world that we live in. But this is Jesus' discipleship strategy, and this is what we're trying to follow. We want to pour into a few relationships of people. The people that we come in contact with on a regular basis, the people that are in our community groups, and we're becoming like Jesus. We're belonging, and we're spurring one another on toward love and good deeds. And we're becoming more faithful. And then we are being fruitful and multiply. We're multiplying. We're filling the earth. And this is the picture. I'm going to try to send this out maybe tomorrow so that you guys can spend more time just thinking about this. What are the implications of this? Spend some time wrestling with it, and with yourselves, with your spouse, with your family, with the groups that you're a part of. I'm going to ask the worship team to come up now, and we're going to get ready to conclude the service with a couple of songs. But I have these questions for us to think about as we close. Are you alive? Are you alive? Have you experienced real life, true life, abundant life, life to the full, the God kind of life that only comes through a relationship with your Creator? Have you experienced that kind of life? It's only made possible through Jesus' loving self-sacrifice for you. And so you're invited to repent. And that's like a big religious word to us, but it just means turn from your way of doing life. Realize that your way of life is not cutting it, and I think we would all deep down inside know that. Turn from your way of doing life and trust your Creator. It's an invitation to trust in Him, to trust in Him. Join His family. Follow Him for a lifetime. Participate in what He's up to in the world. Are you growing? Are you reproducing? Are you participating? Some things that I think we all have to wrestle with each and every day as we seek to follow Jesus together.